I'm Jordan Belfort, and this is Sales School. All right, short message from my number one sponsor, NetSuite. Here's the deal. If you're a business owner, you don't need them, NetSuite, to tell you it's tough to run a business, because it is, right? We all know that. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. They're the world's number one cloud-based business system. They give you the visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. You want to join over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. So schedule a free product tour now at netsuite.com/school. That's netsuite.com/school. I'm going to talk about how each step of the syntax is connected to the ones before and after that, and how really the key to being elegant and fluid is precisely that. Realizing that when I say, if I talk about step one being the first 4 seconds, right, I don't just mean there's only 4 seconds in the first step, right? Because the next step is intelligence gathering, right? And there has to be something that connects this to that, right? Because in the absence of the two being connected, it's clunky. Like, you sound really good for 4 seconds, and then what? You're a moron, right? And I explained how logic and emotion work together in terms of the emotional mind. Your gut reaction happens in those first 4 seconds, but there has to be a logical connection between that step and this step, right? And I went through the whole thing, and I thought it really came out well. And then this morning, and you guys, I'm on the platform very often. And just, when we launch the new updated back end, which will be in the next 48 hours or so, I'm going to be on there every day, really helping you guys out even more, because I'm very excited about it, right? But the first comment I saw was this woman saying, "Oh my God, I just listened to the Daily Motivation. That was it. That was the one that just put everything into context for me. And now I get it." And I went out and the first pitch of the day, I just was perfect. I closed, and I was like, fuck. I was like, and it made me feel really good. Because guys, I can't tell you how much I enjoy hearing about your success stories and knowing that what I'm doing is not just to make money. Because guys, there's a lot more ways I can make money than doing this. I mean, I think ultimately I'll make more money on this program than anything in my life, because I believe we're on something special here. But also, I just want you to understand that, when I do this day in, day out, what really drives me is I know I'm helping you guys. I know that you're getting massive value from this. I know that I priced it in a way that people who could never have had access to this type of training now have access to it, right? So it's a great feeling for me, right? So again, I want to thank that person for making that post. I forgot her name, but it was awesome. And I just saw another post right now from someone. It was from Fernando, right? And he talked about standards. He was like, hey, I think he was having a conversation with Buddy or something, right? Who helps me administer the platform, right? And he's like, how do I raise my standards, right? At first, when I saw that, I was going to say, that's a great topic for tonight's intensive. Now it'll be, actually won't see this until tomorrow, so it'll be last night. So I said, but I want to do something more I want to do this tonight's training is be more of an outer game, like a skill set tonight, right? So I'll save the standards deep dive for another weekend, right? But it's a good thing to talk about today, just in terms of not like a 1 hour deep dive into standards, but let's just talk about standards in general. And I want Fernando to know that I respect the fact that you put that out there, that you feel like your standards aren't high enough, right? And rather than going right now and telling you how to raise your standards, I want to just give you some context here, just for your own life about what it really means to you, and probably what could be holding you back here. Now, and I really can't fix it right now. I need like an hour, more to really go into it enough to help you. But I want to give you some context so you figure out kind of maybe what's holding you back and why you got into this spot. What happens typically with standards, right? Standards, it's a malleable thing. Your standards are not a constant throughout your whole life. We have times where our standards are very high, and we have sometimes where our standards are on the lower side. They're just like, we are peaking, we're in that flow, we're doing great, our standards are high. And then we have other times throughout, even I'm talking over years, meaning where you're just not burning as bright in your own life. You don't feel as directed. You just don't really feel like you're firing at all cylinders. And what happens is this, and here's the interesting part, is that your standards, believe it or not, are more of they're almost a result. Your standards are a result of other things that have happened to you in your life. And then what happens is your brain, to avoid feeling pain and to maximize feeling pleasure. And just, I've never ever had this thought like it just occurred to me this second as I was saying it, like, because I was trying to think of a way, I had a thought I was trying to get out to. So this is really something I've never really said before to anybody, but it just occurred to me in this moment what's really going on. I was trying to get to the bottom of Fernando's issue. So not that it's a new idea, but it's a new way of explaining the idea, right? Because I didn't invent standards, right? No one has. It's been around forever. So here's what's really happening. I think this is going to help you, Fernando, and everybody else to really start. It's almost a starting point of how to raise your standards. What happens is that your standard, right, is like your thermostat. It's your set point of like what you will accept in your life. Like, well, I will not settle for less than X. So like say my standard for making money. My standard is I want to make $10 million a year. That's a very reasonable, rational standard for me, meaning I want to have that much money, and that doesn't mean I've always made that much money. At times I've made a lot more, and times I've made less. The point is when I'm making less than $10 million a year, I'm not living the life day to day that I feel I deserve and want, and that makes me feel great inside. In other words, it's just like there's things I can't have access to. I'd like to be able to take private jets everywhere. I'd like to do this or do that, whatever it might be, contribute to charities in a certain way, whatever it might be, like my must. Like if I get to $10 million in my head, both logically when I think it through and emotionally, just how I feel when I wake up in the morning, like, that's a good solid. There's nothing I can't do with that amount of money. That's my standard for me, right? But what gave me that standard? Why is that? Like, what caused that to be $10 million, right? And what would cause it to drop down to, let's say, $1 million, and what would cause it to go up to 100 million? Like, what would cause those things to change? And here's what you need to realize here. This is important. This is the crux of it all. Is that your standard is a function of what your brain thinks is possible, and then affected by what's actually happened in the past. Meaning let's say I think I'm worthy of $10 million. Like I have talent, I have special skills, I have a history of making money, I know the rules of success. In my own mind, logically speaking, I can't think of one fucking reason why I shouldn't make $10 million a year. Combined with the fact, right, that I've had times when I made a lot more than $10 million, and then at times when I've had problems when I was making almost zero, right? But here's what happened. I never let the pain of dropping below my standard. So let's say in those years when I was in jail, right? Or when I was just having bad years in business, I just couldn't find my sweet spot. And let's say I was making $500,000 or $1 million, right? What happens to most people is that when your actual real results drop below what you believe you're capable of, what do you feel? You feel dissonance, you feel pain, you feel a lack. I say, wait, I'm worthy of this, I should be here, but I'm here. And that then gives you the internal motivation to close the gap to what you believe your reality should be.